Hello Reshifters. In this video I'm going to show you how you can hack your way into forcing RV to refresh environments. Okay, well, we know that RV Max, it's a bit temperamental, and to refresh things that are in here, right, environment effects and so on and so forth, require a manual refresh, right? And in this case we're gonna use something for the environment, right? And of course the right way to do this is to create a Redshift environment. Don't try to use a texture in spherical projection. That's not the way to do it. Okay, and let's put it in there, right? Let's connect it in here. Okay, well, that's all fine and dandy, and we need a texture, and for this I'm gonna pick this one, 16K by 8K, 400 megs texture, pretty big. And you can see the Max UI and OS has a bit of time to read this. Okay, so let's start rendering. It will take some seconds for the texture to be converted into the cache. So this is what we're having, right? And the thing is, if I try to rotate this, this is not an object in the scene, it won't be tracked. So if I do something like this, I have to hit a refresh, right? I don't want that. The same thing happens for exposure. Hit refresh. Nah, I'm not a big fan of manual labor, right? So how can we do this? Well, here's the hacking part. Create a dummy. It doesn't matter what it is, name or whatever. You can name it whatever you want. Env controller. Okay, and as I name it controller, you probably guessed what I'm gonna do here. So at this point I need to link the rotation of my environment shader to the rotation of my object. It doesn't really matter if it's rotation, it can be anything. It really doesn't matter. I'm gonna hide this, not gonna use it for anything. So rotation Z, that, bam, connect. And I'm gonna put here the translation, well, position Z for the exposure, if I can find it someplace. Okay, refraction, adjust hue, saturation, exposure. Again, same thing, connect, bam. So I have the exposure controlled by the this, right, and the rotation controlled by this. Now there's no direct translation for the rotation, to be honest, and at this point I don't care about the little thingy. I'm just gonna hide it. I really don't care about it, and I'm gonna show you why. I don't want to translate it into viewport like that. What I'm gonna do instead is to show hide here. I'm gonna show hide these two controllers, right? So we have these guys, two guys, and here's the nifty part. Okay, I don't have to do anything. I'm gonna control this. Let me show you additional parameters. Okay, so this is rotation, right? I'm going here, and lo and behold, this works in real time. Okay, same thing for exposure. Nifty. So whenever you need something to be controlled for the environment or whatever you have in there, something that's not trackable inside Max, well, let's say you have something like not lens distortion or bokeh, even those. Although we have this, right? We have the circle of confusion. Actually, the focus point, you can pick it in RV directly, and you have controls in here for the circle of confusion, right? For the bokeh mode. But if you don't want those, not a problem. You can do your own. Let's see what else we have. Lens distortion, nothing you can really use here, but you have the volume scattering, right? And if you're working a lot on volume scattering, right, like I don't know, scattering, attenuation, height, or any of these points here, right? You can again create a dummy controller and use that instead, and this will be tracked by Max, and you'll get the result in real time. Now, the only thing you won't get the result is if you're going for a tint. So let's map the tint using a max on noise. Right, so I'm gonna go here. Well, of course, at this point, this is probably everything. It's pretty much white. I expect this. If we have the attenuation bigger than 0, of course, otherwise it requires a light. There you go, right? So this is not something I want to use, and at this point I'm gonna just clear this. Well, basically I'm gonna go back to black, and I'm gonna use, let's say I'm gonna pick up a light. So go here and get a light, something like so, right? And let's rotate it around someplace, right? And this will be noisy. Now if I go here to control my light, and I'm gonna go to contributions and volume, let's put this 0.05, something like that, and I do need to see this guy. It's a noise. To be honest, I have no 10. This needs a refresh. Probably 100. There you go. Right. So again, our friendly dummy. Hello. And again, we're gonna wire things in here. So let's say overall scale. Okay. Well, parameter wiring overall scale. What do we get? We get the dummy something. Dummy transform position rotation scale. Hey, let's get the scale. Okay, connect. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, it's correct. Unfortunately, Max doesn't allow this. This is a vector. This is a float, right? And it doesn't quite work. So let's put it to whatever position. Why? Doesn't really matter. I mean, it's something you have there, right? So if I look at this thing here, and I look at show hide, let's see, what we have is this guy, right? Again, the controller doesn't matter, but I should get a pretty neat real-time feedback, right? So let's say FBM, for instance. Yeah, this one, this if you're changing the type, you'll have to change it. There's no object I can put here that has an anomalous as this one. But other than that, you can do this for whatever you want. I mean, not a big deal. Probably up to a point you could even use user data. Not so sure if that will work with this. You know, to create a float here or a vector or something, and then use that. But to be honest, I find this to be really handy. I don't have to see this guy. It's just hidden someplace in the scene. I know what it does, okay, but that's good enough for me. But as you can see, we're getting real-time feedback without triggering a refresh, and this is valid for anything that's in Max and that has a float or a vector value that you can somehow wire to a dummy. Well, hope it helps. Happy shooting. Cheers.